In this episode of Motive Garage, we install a catch can and a new radiator in our WRX and get it ready to race. Something we've been meaning to do for our WRX for a long time is install a catch can. Why? Well, it's a pretty tired and old engine, and although it doesn't breathe that much, I just don't want the oil-air mixture from the rocker covers going through the intake, messing up the intercooler and getting back into the engine. So if we can get rid of the oil out of that air mixture through the intake, we get rid of it, we can make a little bit more power, a little bit less detonation, and run a little bit better with our car. So we needed to choose a catch can. Now we've decided to vent to atmosphere because it's a race car. If it was a street car, we'd look at an oil air separator, but we just needed one that goes to atmosphere. We got the Raceworks 1 litre catch can because it has 2 inlets that we can use, one from each rocker cover in the WRX, and a filter to outlet as well. It is baffled inside, which is good, so it can separate the oil out of that oil air mixture, and we have a drain on the bottom. Now, you're going to have 2 questions. Why do we have a drain rather than a plumb back all the way to the sump? Well, 2 reasons. There isn't a spot to put a drain to the sump on the WRX, and secondly, we're running 98 fuel and it doesn't really breathe that much. So emptying a catch can every now and then isn't going to be a big deal. If we were running double the power that we are now and we're running on E85, it would breathe a lot more and we would want to return to the sump. And secondly, because we're on 98, we probably only need a litre capacity for our catch can. If we're on E85 and big boost, we'd probably need 2 or 3 litres in a catch can. So that's why we're using a 1 litre catch can that's not returning to sump, keeping it very simple. The guys from Raceworks also sent us the hose we need, some sleeving in case it goes near anything hot, as well as some push locks fittings for the hose as well. So that should be pretty straightforward to install. Just got to cut the tube to length, work out where to mount our catch can, and then we've got to block off where it goes into the normal intake. The other thing that we've got for our WRX is a new radiator. So our WRX has done over 230,000 K, so some things are just starting to get old and fail. Our radiator had sprung a small leak, and we basically had 2 options: replace it, or we could try and see if we could repair it. Now, I don't really want to try and repair it because you never know. It might not be repairable and you can waste a whole bunch of time. So I decided to get a whole new radiator for it. Now, when you're looking for a new radiator, so many options. eBay, spec you can get, you don't know what the quality is going to be like. You can go PWR with a much thicker alloy radiator with thermofans and go overkill. But for us, to be honest, I just wanted an OE replacement, something that's at least as good a quality as OE. I didn't need anything bigger, thicker, or in any way whatsoever because, well, a WRX hasn't got an overheating problem. So many people upgrade when they just don't need to. So for us, I decided to talk to the guys from Phoenix Radiators. They do an aftermarket but OE replacement that is better than OE quality in a radiator. They use parts from Japan and Europe to build these things. 2-year warranty, 50,000 Ks, and essentially it should just drop straight in and fix our problem and no more leaks so we can go racing. Let's go. Now, I always insist that you mount a catch can on the cold side of an engine. So on a straight 6, put it on the intake side. The Boxer has the turbo and exhaust on this side, so put the catch can on this side. Why? Well, if it ever leaks, splits a line or whatever, you don't want that going onto a hot exhaust. So it's just safer to put it on the cold side. The WRX has a nice little pocket down here. You've got to kind of squeeze around the intercooler a little bit, but it fits in there nicely. We're going to have one really short line from this rocker cover to the catch can, and we'll have to run another one probably behind the intercooler over to the other side, Put a little bit of heat sleeving where it goes near the turbo just in case. But a relatively straightforward install. We even got lucky with where the bolt holes were and where the bracket lined up. We could make it work pretty easily. So pretty happy with that. Very sort of very neat, hidden away. And you can still get to the bottom valve if you want to, but you'd probably take the catch can out to empty it. But in this case, we can leave the lines on the car and just undo the actual fittings onto the catch can. 2 bolts, catch can out. Sort of, 5-10 minute job to drain it, pretty easy. Now I find the best way to do it is to get the fitting onto the line first, don't cut the line. Attach this end to the catch can, kind of run it to roughly where it's going to go so you can get the cut right the first time. Push lock. Racework stuff, E85 compatible, so all good. More than we need. Now the factory breather doesn't run a clamp at all, but I think I'm going to put one on anyway, but at least put a zip tie on there just in case you ever get a little bit of extra blow by and it wants to push the hose off, because it gets real messy in there. Now in some cars you'll be able to remove the old lines from the rocker cover to the catch can, but in the WRX it's got hard lines under the inlet manifold and got molds on the factory intake and all sorts of stuff. So in this instance we're just going to block off the old pipe that runs across to the other side, so that way it doesn't ingest any crap into the intake to the turbocharger, because that's where it is. But yeah, you just need to block it off and then run the new hoses to the catch can. Let's do the other side. I'm putting a little bit of heat shielding from Raceworks over the top of this tube on this side where it runs past the turbocharger. Probably doesn't need it. There's a lot of other vacuum lines here that are totally fine, but hey, if you've got it, might as well use it. With a new radiator in the car, we now have to bleed the cooling system. Essentially, you get air pockets throughout the engine. You need to run it. You need to let the thermostat open and let any air pockets or bubbles make their way either to the top of the radiator in a normal case, or in a WRX to the header tank. Now, what a lot of people do is they will get a water bleeding device that sits in the radiator or header tank and brings the water level up even higher above everything else in the system. You don't want to buy one of them. The cheap hack is get a water bottle, cut the top off, wrap electrical tape around the bottom to at least get a half decent seal, sit that in, and then you fill up into this, and that'll help bleed the system. Let's do it. And done. When you get a good quality radiator, that took less than half an hour to fit. Catch can was actually really easy. So all up, new radiator, catch can in the car, in about 2 hours, and we're pretty much ready to go racing. Last final spanner checks, and we're off to Ice Time Attack.